Hi, welcome back. So, just how do we go about getting more of our students engaged in our lessons? How do we get more students taking part? Well, we know that it's got at least something to do with the lesson content and the activities that we're giving our students, because we know that when things are too dull and too easy, the students get bored, and we know that when the work is too difficult and too confusing, the students get frustrated, and both those situations lead to students switching off, messing around, disrupting the lesson, costing us time and stress, and of course the students leaving the lesson having learnt nothing at all. But we also know that it's not just about pitching work at the right level, because like me, you've probably stayed up until the early hours of the morning planning a differentiated lesson, only to find that the next day there are some students who aren't engaged, they're not taking part, and they're still switched off. And it seems that no matter what you do, no matter how inspiring and interesting you think you've made your lesson, there are still some students who won't take part. So what's going on? Well, over the years I've found that there are some students, the ones that are totally uninterested in your lesson, the ones that turn up with their hands in their pockets and they drag their feet along the corridor, oh God, have we got you again? That kind of negative attitude. There are some students like that who seem to have actually made up their minds before the lesson even starts that they don't want to be there. They're totally uninterested and switched off before you've even had a chance to start teaching them. I like to use this analogy here. It's as if these students are weighed down with this bag of negative thoughts, feelings and emotions about the lesson. And those thoughts, feelings and emotions, they could have come from direct experience. It could have been that the student's been to the lesson in the past and just found that the activities were too repetitive or too boring, the work was too difficult, the work was too easy, or perhaps they didn't like the teacher, or perhaps they didn't even like some of the students in the group. Or those negative thoughts, feelings and emotions could come from their peers. It could come from their friends saying that they haven't had a good time in that lesson, so it's likely that you won't either. But wherever these thoughts, feelings and emotions have come from, the fact is that some students have made up their minds before the lesson starts that they're not going to have a good time and they're not going to take part and they don't want to be there. And teaching students when they're in this state, as you well know, is an absolute nightmare. It's nigh on impossible. Before we can hope to get these kids interested, we've got to change this negative attitude and this negativity. We want our students turning up for lessons with a smile. We want them eager to take part. We want them keen to learn, actually wanting to be in the lesson. Because when that happens, teaching is a lot easier. It's a lot easier for us, but you also have students leaving the lesson having learnt something, so everyone's a winner. And the thing is that we can get to this situation. I've seen this happen too many times to doubt the effectiveness of this. There are things that you can put on in your lesson that will have your students more engaged and have more students taking part. In order to change all this negativity and have our students leaving the lesson in a positive mood so that they return in a more positive state of mind, ready to learn, there's only one thing we have to do, and that is change what's in this bag. Okay, so what we're going to do in this video is go through quite quickly some of the key features that you could include in your lessons to get more students engaged and more students taking part. What we're trying to do is give your students a more positive lesson experience, getting more positive feelings, thoughts and emotions in the bag so that they leave in a more positive frame of mind, and that means there's more likelihood they're going to come back next lesson in a positive frame of mind. And then we start to break down this negative cycle. Now I'm just going to go through these fairly quickly, and in the next video I'll give you practical examples of each one so that you can put them in your lesson. The first one there is success and achievement, giving our students the chance to succeed and achieve in the lesson. Psychologists believe that deep, long-lasting happiness, as opposed to in-the-moment pleasure, which wears off quite quickly, has to come from challenge and overcoming a challenge. And you get that sense of success and achievement when you work your way through things. So one of the things we've got to do is have a range of strategies for helping our students gain that sense of achievement during the lesson. We want them experiencing that light bulb moment, you know, that magic moment when the light bulb goes on and they realise perhaps for the first time that they do understand, that they can work something out. And we need a range of ways of putting those across. So it's not just about setting work at an appropriate level, it's about delivering work in a way that your students can actually get and understand. And in the next video, I'm going to give you 10 different ways of delivering and reinforcing information so that they get this vital sense of achievement. It's worth bearing in mind that the earlier you can do this in your lesson, the earlier you can give your students that sense of achievement, the more chance there is they're going to buy into the rest of the lesson. So it's important that you do have this range of strategies in place so that you can get your students experiencing that straight away early on in the lesson. There's something else which is vitally important when we're talking about giving students a sense of success and achievement is providing the right level of encouragement and support along the way to help them through tough challenges. Because if the challenge is too difficult, if the work's too difficult for them, a brick wall comes up and they will switch off and they won't experience success and achievement. Equally, we don't want to give them too much support because otherwise we deny them that sense of success and achievement because we do the work for them. And if you've got 30 or 40 students or more, it can be very difficult providing support for all your students. They're all vying for your attention and your time, and it's impossible to give them the support they need. So we need a range of strategies which provide the support for the students without taking up all our time and our attention. So things like peer support programs are particularly useful, as is teaching your students a set of stages that they can go through to solve their own problems. And finally, it's important that we recognise the efforts of our students and praise our students when they've put the effort in to reach those light bulb moments. So we need a range of strategies for celebrating success. Okay, the next thing we need to do, which is very, very important, is make sure that all our students feel part of our learning group, part of our classroom community. Because it's a lot harder for them to sit out or opt out of something where they feel valued, something where they feel included, something where they feel they have worth, where they are wanted and needed. So we do that by integrating cooperative learning activities in our lessons and getting students working together, getting them supporting each other. We have regular team building sessions where students learn more about each other, get to know each other better and learn to support each other and work together. And that way we start to build this vital classroom community where everyone supports each other and where everyone feels they have a voice and feels valued and feels that they actually belong. Now, as well as building our classroom community and our peer relationships, it's imperative that we build our teacher-student relationships. So we need strategies in place to build relationships with each individual student. Some students need this more than others. A lot of students get a sense of belonging naturally just by being at school, but some need a lot more help and a lot more support from us as teachers. And finally, we need to look at the range of strategies that we're using in our lessons. Now, it's been said that the bottom 20% of learners in any group tend to be kinesthetic learners, those students that need to be up, moving around and actively doing. So it stands to reason that if we're going to engage more of these students, we need to have more active learning in our lessons. How do we do that? Well, we need some ready-to-go templates that we can just plug in any subject, content or topic so that it can be delivered in an active learning format and so that students can practice it and reinforce that information in an active learning format. Humour. We remember emotions such as humour much more readily than we remember cold, hard facts and figures. So if you can attach some appropriate humour or a belly laugh to the information that you're delivering, there's A, more chance your students are going to go away and remember that, but B, there's more chance they're going to want to be back in because they had a good time. Novelty, intrigue, suspense, challenge, discovery, surprise, these are all powerful elements that your students love, so we need them in our lessons. It's very difficult to put those into your lessons just through the subject content, so we need a range of ready-to-go activities that do the job for us. Brain breaks, starters, energizers, fun fill-ins, videos can all be just plugged into a lesson whenever you need to change the mood. Challenge. We've covered challenge and said that the work has got to be at an appropriate level for our students. But one of the most important things with challenge is to make sure that the work is actually relevant to them. Because if it isn't, if the students don't see a point in the work, they're going to switch off. So again, you need ways of making your work more relevant to your students. And with some creativity, you can actually adapt virtually any subject content and make it more relevant to your students. Finally, we need variety. Variety in terms of pace. Not all your lessons need to be up, running round, high energy. Sometimes students need to settle down. Variety in terms of environment. Sometimes we might want to go out of the classroom. Sometimes we might want to change the classroom. Sometimes we might want to bring speakers into the classroom or other elements into the classroom. And finally, variety in terms of the way the information is delivered. We've all heard of Gardner's multiple intelligences, but it'd be ridiculous to try and think that we have to deliver all our information in terms of each one of those intelligences every single lesson. We don't have to. We just need to make sure that there is some variety there. Okay, so that's an outline of some of the things you can put in your lessons to get more students engaged in taking part. Now, you might have noticed that I've put them in 3 broad groups. And these fit in very well with our needs-focused approach. When we talk about success, achievement, recognition and praise, we're talking about giving our students a sense of empowerment. When we talk about community, support, building relationships with our students, teams, we're talking about giving our students a sense of belonging. And when we talk about humour, novelty, challenge, intrigue, surprise, variety, we're talking about fun. Now, these 3 broad groups of needs, belonging, empowerment and fun, are crucial. They are vitally important to your students and indeed to all human beings. We all have a need for fun in some form. For some people, fun is collecting stamps. For others, fun is driving a racing car or jumping off a mountain. But we all have some need for variety, music, laughter and fun in our lives. We all have a need to belong to something bigger than ourselves. We all have a need for friends. And again, to a greater or lesser extent. Some people have lots of friends, some people just have 1 or 2. But we all need to belong to something and someone. And we all need a sense of empowerment. We all need to feel good about doing things. You don't work in your job just for money. You do it because it feels good. It feels good to be recognised. It feels good to be praised. It feels good to have that success and achievement. The fact is that as human beings, we all need to meet these 3 broad groups of needs. And if we do not make allowance for these needs in our lessons, if we do not provide appropriate means for students to have fun in our lessons, they will make their own fun. These needs are important to them as water is to a plant. So if we don't provide the fun, they will make their own fun. And that's why they go about throwing things around the room and videoing teachers and sticking them on YouTube, winding teachers up, throwing things around, that kind of thing. It's fun. If we don't give them a sense of belonging, they'll get their own sense of belonging by forming little splinter groups and going off with their friends. We've got to make them part of our group. And if we don't give them a sense of empowerment, then they'll find their own way of getting empowerment. It's very empowering to stand up to the teacher, to argue with the teacher or to opt out. So if we don't provide for these things in our lessons, our students are going to find their own ways of getting them met. Now in the next video I'm going to give you some practical examples of meeting each one of these needs in your lessons so that you can put them to work straight away. Okay, thank you for listening.